Well, good day, everybody. So I hope you're having a good Sunday. We're a little bit earlier today because I've got to do a podcast later with Sailing Anarchy, of all things, which is going to be a bit of fun with Scott. I'm affectionately known as the Mad Bastard on Sailing Anarchy, which is an amazing forum and sort of blog site, news site, and so on. If you've never seen it, you want to check out Sailing Anarchy. It's an absolute classic. It's a forum for everything to do with sailing, racing, sailing, cruising, sailing, bits and pieces, and certainly solo sailing as well. And all of our events, the OGR and the GGR, and now the MGR, have had a interesting place in the history of the various forums. And people thought it was crazy when I came up with the Golden Globe race. And a lot of people were it's not an aggressive site, but you can say anything you like. There's a huge amount of swearing there, and generally the idea is to take the piss out of things or just give it curry. It's unusual to see what I'd say normal complimentary and everyone's polite and petite. This is where you go, the bloody idiots, they're stupid. How dumb is that? What a load of shit, all this sort of stuff. It's really quite fun. Anyway, I got a hammering with the idea of the original Golden Globe race, which ended up to be quite cool. And a lot of the people that were hammering us basically pulled their head in partway through, although the first edition was very dramatic, if you know about that. We lost a few boats and a lot of rigs. And, some people saying, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to sailing. And others thinking, it's the best thing that's ever happened to sailing. Anyway, then we announced the Ocean Globe race, and we got a fair hammering on that as well, because everyone sort of gets a hammering as well on stuff. And when we came up, I finally made the big time when we came up with the idea of the mini globe race, and you should have seen what people were saying. It was unreal. And that's where I assumed the mantra or the title of Mad Bastard, so what's the Mad Bastard up to now? This is ridiculous. It'll never happen. The boat's a heap of shit, blah, blah, blah. And the funniest part is that a couple of the biggest aggressive guys on there, I actually know who they are because a lot of it's anonymous, but, they're up from the Central Coast and stuff. And so poor old Fiji bitter. Oh, is he bitter? Because I have a whole section of people that don't like what I do and how I do it. And, no one's perfect. I've got some stupid commentary sometimes because I've got this uncontrollable. It just happens. It's a nervous laugh, and even that pisses me off sometimes. Anyway, so for whatever reason, we've gone full circle, and now I'm going to do this podcast with Scott, and I'm completely looking forward to it. He's done an amazing job with Sailing Anarchy. It is unique in the industry. He's got a huge following, so it'll be fun. We do that this afternoon, and I'm not sure when it'll go up, but it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. He's a cool guy, and he's got what I call, in the terms of what would they call it in sailing? You've got big gonads. Scott, the owner and the editor, and all that sort of stuff. He is never short of an opinion, and he says it as he sees it, and it's quite impressive. He cuts through a lot of the official rhubarb or the general popular opinions and just literally picks the teeth out of something, and he either hates it or he likes it or whatever, and it's quite fun. So, and Brian, we haven't had a report from Brian for a while, or Frank for that matter. Brian is regularly writing for Sailing Anarchy, and it's his kind of place as well. So it's quite fun. So it's just sailinganarchy.com, and the forums are quite interesting. So anyway, so because of that, I thought I'd get it happening now because the tracker now, because the boats are moving really slowly. There's not a lot happening. They're bogging down, but there is some really interesting stuff happening. And Keri's sneaking around the top, and he knows what he's doing. I can see he's doing it on purpose, so I'll talk about that in a minute. But before we go there, I'm going to just give you a tutorial on the tracker. So some of this will be boring for you, but those that have never had a play with the PC, the main YB tracker that we have, it's quite a lot of information. I don't even use it all when we do normal tracker update. Most people go with their phone app, just bing, 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 and you get the basic information with what's going on. You get their position, you get the leaderboard, and you get some predict wind images there. But if you want the whole shooting match, the only place you can get it is from the website on the main tracker, and then you've got a lot of stuff which you can play around with. And Even though I do these tracker updates every day. Well, I try to do them every day. I'm managing it so far, but we're not guaranteeing that. We guarantee we'll do 1 or 2 a week, but we'll see. There it is. Boom. I don't want that, so I'm going to hide that. And showing screen. Hang on a sec. That's everything gone nuts here now. Okay, so why have we got this? If I hit that, we got the tracker. Okay, we're on. All right, so hopefully you're hearing me. I'll go to my tracker, which is over here. And okay, so here's the big screen. Okay, down the bottom you'll see all sorts of scales and everything. I'll come to that. So it doesn't actually fit all on this one screen image that we've got here. This is off the website. So to get there, you know how to get onto the live. You go to the tracker, go to leg 2, and here we are. So we're first of all looking at this top console. Okay, this is where you get most of your controls from, and there's some down the bottom as well. First of all, I can also get rid of the teams there. So anytime you can look at the teams, you've got all the skipper names and flags, and then you hit that, then the leaderboard comes out, and you can scroll through to see all of the results from the leaderboard. And you can also, on the leaderboard, if you're looking at the vector made good or velocity made good, you can average it out from the start. So they've been out nearly a week now, or you can do it recent. If you go to recent, then the current average speed is used as the general data to come up with an ETA and all that sort of stuff. So at this rate, if they're only doing 2 knots, you would see they're going to finish on the 29th of July, which is the restart is scheduled for 26th of July, but that's because it's only doing 2 knots. If I go back and put from the start, the VMG is immediately up to 4.4 knots because they were moving quite fast at the beginning. So the estimated time of finish is 26th of May because it's using the 4.4 knot vector made good or VMG to give you that information. So they're the two main ones there. The other thing you've got here, well, it's all on all boats, so that's the same. So and it becomes more relevant as you get closer to the finish, but it's a good guide for approximate ETAs depending on what's happening. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. We just push it right out the side. The next one here is your zooming button. Okay, so it's just got a plus and a minus. You'll see there I'm zooming into the fleet, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And if you zoom out again, obviously you can see more. If we go to Galapagos here, you can actually use this to find out and have a walk around the countryside if you want. You can see I'm zooming in on the land here. It just keeps going. So you go past the scale. You've now lost the wind feature, but you're going to have a look at. We want to look at Isla Pinzon Island, right? And you can keep zooming right into the beach. There's probably no beach on this one, but anyway, you can see what happens here. You can go right in. It's great. You can do a world tour. It's just like Google Maps, where you go off the map and come to the images. So there you are. You can see where there's bays and coves and so on. So I'll zoom that right back again and come back to the fleet. Now that we've zoomed in and lost the wind, I have to put that back in. It doesn't come back automatically. So see, we're just looking at the picture now, which shows you the underwater contours as well. So to put the wind back in, you can see the windsock there, like a windsock at the airport. Hope you can see that. You just basically hit that. You can have no overlay, which is what you're looking at there, or you can have a predict wind, and I'll just show you what that is. This is the predict wind gradient. It's very accurate, maybe even a little bit more accurate than the windy graphic, which I'm about to come up with, but it's a lot more complicated for the average person to see and use, right? Because it's got these little arrows, and they've got color on them. You've got a color gradient that you've got to come to down the bottom, which isn't so easy to understand because there's nothing happening there now. So I very rarely use predict wind, and we're always worried that we'll lose the windy graphic, but fortunately YB at the moment are paying the subscription and they get to use Windy. So if we come back here, I always use the Windy graphic there. It's easier to understand, especially for the average person that doesn't understand it. You can see here the wind's going in this direction. The color gradient dictates the speed. And so how do you work out the speed? Well, you come down to the bottom. There's always this color scale. You can see here these deeper blue patches, there's basically no wind because the color matches up there. But the greener patch over here, there's a bit more breeze there. You can match that up to here. So it's about 10 to 15 knots. And you can see now clearly that the fleet is getting bogged down in very calm winds that they're all talking about. So that's the wind gradient. Now you've seen me click onto that. As soon as I hit this little scale here, you've got temperature, air pressure, like barometric pressure, clouds, currents, waves, and rain. And there's not going to be a lot happening here, but we'll see some currents. You've seen these before. You know that big current that hooked around the corner there. They've then just bounced this one. This one's actually slowing down now. Eric and the others have been in it, but it's not as active as it was a couple of days ago. You can see that. Anyway, there is a current still assisting the boats drifting along here, so that's pretty cool. I'll talk about the specifics later. I just want to show you the different bits. If we go into the waves, then again, you can see what the colours mean when you come down to this gradient here. Whenever there's any purples, and there'll be none around, it dictates the height. But this is a bit bluer, so that's like 1.5, nearly 2 metre seas over here. But where the calm is, it's probably more like 1 to 1.5 metre seas. And in the lee of the Galapagos, is this light blue there, there's nothing. That's right over here. If we match it up there, there's like less than 1/4 metre. So it's very little wave height. So that's how you get your waves. Currents, we've done that. Clouds, it should be pretty cloudless, but that's the go. These orange areas here are no clouds, and then this is a bit more clouds, and this is even rain in the clouds and so on. Pressure, there'll be nothing. You won't even notice it. There's such a big open area of isobaric difference that it doesn't really show anything. But this is where you get the different bits. So I'll come back to the wind. Now the next thing you can do here, you'll see they talk about 30th of March 25 at 13:30. That's the actual weather that you're seeing on the screen for that time. And if I want to move it forward, you just click and drag, and we can take it up to the 2nd of April, and you can see it's changed. So this is the wind that'll be here on the 2nd of April. And if we take it forward again, you can take it as far as you want. You can click and drag. There's going to be no wind again here on the 4th of April. Or you can just hit your left and right arrows, and it'll click it through about every 4 hours, every 3 or 4 hours. As you click your left or right, it changes the position there. Okay, so that's how you can get your forecasting for 7, 8, 9, 10 days ahead of schedule. Just drag that one up there. To get rid of decrease the size, you just hit this up and down button. Now along the top of the scale here, this is our measuring tool, right? So you hit that once, right? Stop your cursor and then click it, and you get one icon. You stop the cursor over there, click it again, and the distance between these two pings here, these little icons, it says distance 268 nautical miles. Initial bearing, which is down here, is 246 degrees true. Okay, so that's because you can remember you got north is 00, south is 180. So this is going this way. Is initial bearing is 246, and the back bearing going the other way, exactly 180 degrees less, is 66 degrees. So you get a distance and bearing. So Gary's at the back there. Gary is approximately from Renaud, is approximately 200 nautical miles from Renaud, and Renaud is bearing at 207 degrees from him. So this measuring tool, I use it quite often for different things. You can click and drag it once you've got the two there. Once you've done that, you've got to turn it off by going back, and then if you want to drag this across now with your left and right keys, it won't work unless you hit that. You've got to hit that thingo, and then you can use the left and right keys because the ruler overrides it. Okay. This is the map type, right? Again, if I come back here and I hit that, I can go for satellite image, which is there. There's the satellite image you just saw previously. Or I can go to a hybrid, and that has a combination of street roads and pathways and things like that. Or I can just go straight to topographical. So this is like a normal road map type situation. So you've got three options there. We don't actually have navionics on here, so you can't see it. But all you can see here, you've got major roads and towns and cities and so on, and that's all driven from that little globe there. You can decide what you want, and usually we'll go satellite, and then we'll click the weather there. Okay, hang on. Why is the sock not there now? Okay, so it's not satellite. It's the other one, hybrid. Maybe it's the hybrid. Oh, japers, I've lost the wind now, and I'm not sure why. Okay, get that down there. Okay, so it must be satellite. Now it should come back, and it's not. Oh, windy. Yes, it is. There it is there. So we use the satellite image, then we hit windy, and we're back on. Okay. Now, this one here is this little double arrow is the snail trails. And you've got three options there. The one that I often use is just the strongest, and it's a snail trail all the way back to the start. So it goes the whole lot. If you click it again, there's no snail trail. So if you're not interested in that, it's confusing the issue, you can turn it off. Or you can hit it again and you get a short one, which goes for I think it's about 80 miles or something. So you'll see once they're moving forward, it's never going to be longer than this distance here, and then it fades off. So you only have a short snail trail on that one. Now, you all know about this run line there. If you want to get rid of it, you just hit that. That's the coarse run line, which sometimes can distort some of the bits and pieces. It gets in the way, so you can actually take that out. Then the next one, if I scale this back, we can see they're on the other side of the world now. You can hit this one here, which is a day-night situation, and it roughly, not accurately, but roughly, if I go right back, it'll show you where the night time is, okay, when it's coming in. So, and it's obviously going to the west, so it means that the sun's only come up in the last few hours, technically speaking. But what I find is that this is anything up to 2 or 3 hours late, because there's a dawn and dusk, there's a period before the sun is up or down, things like that. So it's not deadly accurate, but it's within a few hours. So you can see it's nighttime over here on the Pacific, it's daytime over here, and that's how the day-night works. The next one is put longitude there, and it's every 20 degrees. So there's 20 to the west, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120. So this is 120 degree west, and it gets very complicated when you get over here. So it's 180 degrees west, and as soon as that's the international date line, you might say, right? Because Greenwich is treated as 00. It's noon at Greenwich, and you get about 12 hours to the other side of the world. So that's when the day changes over. So technically, the start of the new day starts to the west of this international date line, and that's got some squiggles in it as well, so it doesn't cut through a country. And so you walk on one side of the street and it's midday, and the other side of the street it's 11 o'clock in the morning. So it's distorted, but for celestial observation and navigation, it's a dead straight line. And it's quite fun when I've sailed many times to Antarctica, and we sail up and down this and say, oh, yesterday's today and tomorrow didn't exist yesterday, but it is coming tomorrow. So it gets very bloody confusing. And if you're a navigator and you've got to do this celestial way, you really have to think hard. Otherwise, you can get yourself completely cocked up there, and everything turns to mud. But anyway, so this is east of Greenwich, 160, 180. There's the date line. And the other one is west of Greenwich. So that's sometimes a nice thing to have. Full toggle screen, that's nothing. We've already got that. I very rarely use these other ones. You can zoom into the trackers, so I just hit that zoom in, and it takes you to the spot. If you're somewhere in the world and you can't find them, the quickest way is just to hit that zoom to the manual area. Okay, zoom to the race area. Well, that doesn't really matter because this is a round the world race. But if you're doing, they use the same tracking system if you're just having a 3 or 4 hour race in the bay, and you might have different races that you can zoom to and so on. So this is showing leg 2. That's most of the scales up there. Now the next thing I want to do is show you a fun feature, which is simple, but it can get messy. And And that's how you do the zoom in and out to have your own little race. Now, preset this up. So what you've got here is you'll see that on the sliding scale on the bottom, you have this one. As soon as you hit that toggle there, you get another scale come up at the top, and this determines the speed of the video replay for all the boats, whether you want it faster or slower. So I'm just going to set it here. This is 0, 0. That's where it doesn't even move. That's going backwards. If you set this up, they'll all start going backwards. So I'm going to set it about here, right? And then at the moment, you can see from the left to the right, that's the way it's going to play, right? And so it's finished there, this dot there. I'm hoping you can see that. It comes to the end and the screen comes back. If I hit this and start drawing it back, I'm drawing it back, ready to start the replay, right? So the replay, I've stopped it there, and you'll see the dates changed. As I drew that straight down, you'll see the date and time changing here. So I've drawn it back. We're going to do a replay from the 27th of March 2025 at 16:53:36 UTC. So this is where the video replay is going to start from, right? And I've dictated the speed from here. So what we're going to do seven, 8, 9, 10, and we're racing towards the end, and you can do a commentary here. There goes Kerry, it's overtaking Trekker, and down here Dan and Renaud are having a go, back neck and neck. They're on top of each other. Renaud's heading south, Dan's heading southwest. Boom. Okay, the race is over because it's come to real time, right? So that's real time, 30th of March at midday, which is the last UTC position and time. So there, that you got it. Now, while we're here doing this replay, I'm going to take it back and I'm going to increase the size because I want to show you something that's happening, which will make sense when I'm doing the report. Because Kerry's on a bit of a winner here, and he has Starlink now, so he is absolutely watching Windy, and I'm certain that he's picked up a little issue where he is actually sitting in the north right here. He's trying to catch up with the rest of the fleet. I can't put the wind gradients here because the program won't hold. It's too sophisticated to change the weather as they're racing. But basically, here's what's happening. Okay, first of all, in this position, start position, Holiday Dan is underneath Renaud. You can't see him, but I'm pretty sure that's right. Yeah. So this was where Holiday Dan was underneath Renaud. They're neck and neck. They're both beside each other. The fleet is spreading out to the southwest, and we all know why they're doing that. And Kerry's up here to the north, and he's watching the weather. And I noticed it yesterday, and even the day before. You can see there is a band here of no wind, and these guys are going to come into it. But there is a loop of breeze up to the north here, on the northern side, which is holding and heading down towards the centre of the Galapagos, right? So just remember that. So you'll see Kerry start to hold north, and he is absolutely holding north, right? Now, the next thing that happens is when you're going to cut the corner here, because the Galapagos are over here, if you are heading down this way, eventually you're going to have to turn the corner and head towards the Galapagos, right? But if you can cut the corner further like that and level it out, you're going to travel less distance to get to the same objective, which is just below the Galapagos. And you'll see what happens, that Renaud's coming down. He's seen the gap with no wind. He's got to go for it. And all of a sudden, he'll start heading due south. Now, when you're heading due south and the run line is over the other way, you're forced into a position where you're sailing away from the mark. It's going nowhere. You're going up this way when you want to go to the west. So you're wasting your time. And the only reason you do it is to get to the breeze underneath. And he's trapped because he has to do that, right? Renaud has to come south to get to this other breeze gradient down the bottom. And he'll know he's sailing away from the mark. So if he's sailing down for a day and a half, and Kerry's able to keep going this way for a day and a half, he's going to catch up because the leading line becomes a line going north-south, and it's already started to happen. And most people wouldn't pick that yet. But if you watch this, you'll see exactly what's happening. He'll come down, take on Ayrton, he'll sail past Ayrton, and he's still heading out that way because he knows that Renaud is going to do this. He's got to go down and turn the corner, and then you'll have one boat coming this way and Renaud down the bottom going that way. And where's it all going to end up? And we won't know for about 4 or 5 days, but I've got a sneaky suspicion that in 4 or 5 days, Renaud will probably still be in front, but Keri's going to be right on his hammer. So this will be really interesting to watch. Let's just play this, and okay, so I hit this little arrow here to get them moving. Oh, they're moving a bit fast. Hang on, I'll slow them down a bit. So you can see here, Renaud and Dan are heading straight down where everyone's going. Keri's come across. He's lining up behind Trekker. So these are the two boats we're watching. We'll let everyone else do their own thing. And it's pretty clear. I'll speed it up a little bit more. Pretty clear. Just watch Keri. And here comes Renaud. He's pulled away a little bit. Keri's catching up to Trekker. I'll speed him up a bit more because it might be getting a bit boring. And he's committed at this stage because he's at the north, right? And they're still coming down. Dan and Renaud are having a go. The others are all pretty much holding station. Argo's doing okay. This is Argo over here. He's also might be onto it. And you can see Keri's holding north now. And you can see there, straight away, he's heading out to the west nearly, whereas Renaud's been forced to go south, sailing away from the mark and losing time. See that? He's going straight down, but look where Keri's going. At the same time, Eric and Ayrton maybe picked up on the same issue, right? So this is the finish of our tutorial, really. I'm starting to explain what's going on here in the track, and then I'll show you the weather that is driving this and why Renaud has been forced to tip south and the others are going, certainly Keri's heading out that way, got nothing to lose. And Christian's doing okay as well. And you can see this whole issue about who's winning and who's leading, because all of a sudden Christian's leading, because as I said, the objective is get to the west. Now, this is where it gets technical, because this could be a better tactical position, but right now, I don't think it is. I really think that Keri's got a chance, and even Christian and the others up north here, they can cut the corner, and I don't think they're going to lose anything at all. I think it might work well for them. So let's, now what I'm going to do is just, first of all, I'll give you the perspective of where the Galapagos is, and you can see the bigger picture. We'll shrink it back to here. Okay, so now we're not going to be moving the fleet. You saw how the video runs. And I'm waffling on a bit here because it's Sunday and you can all bugger off if you don't want to watch it. But I know you do it. To me, this is first bit of interesting tactics, because this is the doldrum. It's very demanding. So sorry for the long explanation, but this might hopefully make sense. So you can see here there's still a little bit of a breeze there. The other guys have all stopped. Like they're doing 1.9, they're doing 2.2. Josh is doing 2 knots, da-da-da-da. You come up here, Keri's doing 3.5. Well, he was doing faster than that. Ayrton a bit the same. Argo's doing okay. They've all gone about the same. But anyway, you can see Renaud is going north-south. The objective is to come down here and start to meet up with the trades. And so it might be leveling the playing field. And just watch ahead of here. You'll see there's possibly some bits coming. Renaud's trying to get to this lot. So he's getting very close, and he's committed to that. He can't go anywhere else. That's where the original objective was. But what's going to happen up here? So I'll now just push it through a few hours at a time. You can see here, when Renaud gets down here, there's going to be some nice headwinds coming from exactly where he wants to know. So he'll still possibly have to hold starboard tack and work his way down this way. But you see there's a following breeze up here, and it's extending, if that makes sense. You can see this arm of breeze, and that's what these boats are going to get if they're lucky. So this is only on the 31st. This is tomorrow. But you see it's absolutely formed up, right, through here. This shows up very well on Windy, which is the other weather site, not part of the thingo. And it's starting to leave a hole there with like a track, with the following breeze. Spinnakers and so on, they might be doing 2-3 knots regularly. This one here, Renaud's going to be on port tack, and he might slowly be able to come down. At least he's getting south, so there's nothing wrong with that, because see the trades have come right up here now. But how long are they going to hold? That's the question. And you can play this out and hope that, as much as it's very irregular reporting, now if I look at this one, you can see here it's super light down here, but there's this bridge of breeze here. still following breeze, right? And again, that's by late tomorrow, and it's still holding. Here we go. So this is by tomorrow night. By tomorrow night, it's still there, and Renaud's got a bit of a mixture down here, right? But these guys, it's strengthened up. It's probably running 10 knots there at the moment. That's on the first, and then it starts to go light for everyone. So then the guys might be here, but look over here, it's no difference. So that's the first. So they get a couple of days of free. It's not a lot happening at all. So and then it starts to come in. So by then they're all getting the same, right? So even by the second, they're all getting the same. And if that's the case, and these guys at the top keep going, and Renaud will straighten up, he'll go on to port tack, and he'll be coming across. I think they might be neck and neck. They'll be really starting to converge. And here, they're all going to get the same. So no one's got an advantage, but Renaud came south and wasted time, whereas the others are cutting the corner. So that's the 2nd of April. This is a long explanation. And then when it goes quiet, it's quiet overall. So that's through to the 2nd. So that's 3-4 days away. And if we go the longer term, it's still pretty much the mix of the same. So there's no loss for the guys going up north. They'd still be holding, but they're in a better geometric position towards where they want to go. Okay. However, at the end of the day, this is the main objective. You're trying to catch up with the trade winds, which now on the 3rd, they're all starting to head south again. So wherever they are, they've all got challenges, right? Renaud's not going to be here. He's going to be, by that stage, he'll be over here, and they'll be struggling and trying to chase the trades. The first boat's into the trades there, and they're starting to hold it still about 5 degrees. That's it. So that's a case of watch your space. That's a long explanation, I know. But for me, who's watching it and understands the weather, assuming this weather is correct, and it can be completely inconsistent, it's really all of a sudden Keri is back in the game. I really believe that's what it might be looking like in about 3 days. And that makes life a bit more fun. We don't want to see anyone get out the front and continually be winning. You've got to change the game a few times. Dan's dropped back a bit. We want, and Peeler's still hanging in there. And Christian is in an ideal spot. He's currently number 1 boat, only doing 1.9 knots because he's cutting the corner. Anyway, now just a quick tracker update. The boys still back there. And that could be a function of the weather, I'm not sure, but the breeze hasn't been much breeze, but it's kicked in now. And Monday and Tuesday, it's going to be like a repeat of what the fleet had last week. So hopefully we'll see him get underway. I think Christine was going down to see him today. Excuse me. So she may be able to give us an update. We haven't heard from him at all. So that's that one. Gary is over here. Whoop. Sorry. Losing track of the tracker here. We'll go through each of the boats. So Gary's pretty much stalled 1.5 knots, 64 mile day. A lot of this is current. Just to update you again on the current situation, as in no pun intended, but currents. You can see Gary's just coming into this one. These guys are just leaving it. Eric did another nice post, which we just got, or not a post, but sent me a video on WhatsApp. Not going anywhere in a hurry, but the current's just drifting him out to the west, and that's not a bad thing. Keri's come out of it, and he wants to be there, I can tell. That's exactly where he wants to be. The other currents are all heading in the right direction, which is a good thing, but not giving him as much advantage as they had previously. So that's okay. Ayrton overtaken completely by Keri, now doing 2.3 knots, 90 mile day. Not bad. Eric, 3.6 knots, 87 mile day. Keri's done 116 mile day, and doing 3.5, so that's pretty cool. Christian, 1.9 knots, 73 mile day. We got Dan Turk over here, 55 nautical mile day. He had another drama and another penalty coming his way, which I'll explain in a minute. And Jacob's doing 1 knot and 57 mile day. And Jasmine cooking along, still holding position, doing really well. 1.4, it was interesting to read her post. She's really sailing now. So I will not accept it when she says she doesn't know what she's doing sailing-wise. She's actually a sailor now, which is really cool. Josh, 2 knots, 2 knots and 65-mile day. Mark Sinclair drifting along, but he put in a good post. I shared it. So a bit of fun just to show you who he is, what he's doing, all that sort of stuff. He's having a ball. We've done Jasmine and Adam. Adam's involved with Dan, Canadan. That's where the drama came from, and I'll explain it in a minute. But Dan will get another penalty, and Adam won't get any penalty. He's just been a nice guy helping out. So 58 nautical mile day, not fast for Adam, but he seems happy. There are quite a few of them using their Starlink minis to give us good stuff on what's going on board. So that's cool. And then Pila forced into the same situation as Renaud. She's probably following that routine, which is understandable because not much breeze. 1.9 knots, 53-mile day, haven't gone very far. Dan's fallen way back from Renaud. He was right on his hammer. Now doing 1 knot and 45-mile day. So not happy for Dan. Okay. So that's it. We don't need to look at the leaderboard. I'm going to come back now, and jeepers, that took some time. I don't know how long all that took, but here we come. Boom, bloody questions. I'll hide the questions again here. So what happened last night, or early hours this morning, we got a message from Adam's manager that Canadan had a problem with his communications, and for whatever reason, without checking with us, and that's fine, he must have been chatting to Adam, and Adam agreed to pass over his Iridium Go exec. Now, I've actually got one here. I can show you what an Iridium Go exec looks like. This is an Iridium Go exec. That's what it looks like. Pretty straightforward. That's the aerial that turns on. It's a satellite transmitting device. It's actually a satellite phone. So once I'm locked in, I can talk here, and there's a speaker and a microphone. So it's a phone, okay? But it's a base station for pretty fast internet. You can't really do movies on it, but you can transmit photographs and so on. These used to be the Ants Pants. We used them in the Ocean Globe race, and they're very handy. They're very rugged, reliable. It's waterproof. You can take it into a life raft. It's got a battery inside there, which lasts a number of hours, longer than a normal phone. But it is faster than the phone and so on. So you can do social media updates, photos, and things like that. Anyway, Adam has passed his Iridium Go exec like this over to Dan, okay? And you can't do that under the notice of race, right? Under the notice of race, it's very clear that you can get no outside assistance whilst you're at sea, okay? If you go into an anchorage and anchor, you can do whatever you want, okay? But while you're sailing, there's a very important rule for the race, because that's part of the concept of sailing solo around the world without assistance. It means you can stop anywhere you want and get assistance, but you can't do it at sea. And it's actually happened. So that'll be another assessment, and we'll have to work out what the relevant penalty might be. Now, I'm not even sure why or what happened, because Dan has got other communication devices and so on. And certainly from Adam's perspective, Adam probably thought, well, I've got my Starlink Mini, which is operational, that's fine. And he's got another emergency satellite phone, which is his Iridium Extreme. And I've got one of them here. Anyway, it's back there. It's just like a normal satellite phone that's fully waterproof. That's in his panic bag and not active, right? You've got to activate the SIM card, because his main satellite phone was the Iridium Go exec. Now, with the mini Starlinks, we don't allow that to be considered part of the safety communications for the boat. It's really fancy, and it does internet, and it does everything you want, but it's not reliable for many reasons. So it's not allowed even in what we call GMDSS situations, which is the Global Maritime Distress and Calling System, covers all your safety gear. They will allow Inmarsat, and they will allow Iridium for emergency distress communications, but not Starlink. Okay, it's not there yet. It's a bit complicated, but that's the reality. And for us, for race rules, same thing. Okay, now, so now Adam has decreased his safety efficiency because he's only got one satellite phone that's going to be working. Spoke to the manager. They're activating the SIM card. When they do that, they'll confirm the numbers to us and we'll change the safety book details. But he's only got one satellite phone on board. He's meant to have two. He won't get a penalty for that. The same way as with Dan. Dan had various comms, and if something happens to your comms on the way and one's failed, it doesn't affect your situation in the race. Like Adam, he's only got one satellite phone now. That's just a deficiency and things that happens at sea, and that's why we have redundancy. So even though Adam's given his primary, one of his primary satellite communicators to Dan, he's not breached any rules. That's just sailing. Things break or they get flooded or whatever, and that's why we have redundancy. So I'll get rid of that again. But the issue there was, if they had have asked us, we would have said, hey, Dan, if you take that phone, you're going to get another penalty, which is going to be days, right? He's already got one being assessed for the tow, which could be up to a week, right? So now he's got another one, which is sad for Dan, but that's the way an event like this works. Some people who can comply with all the rules are going to go there, and penalties are applied because that's how it works. So that was the big thing for tonight, or early hours this morning. That's probably enough of what sheep is on 41 minutes already, and we haven't even gone to the questions. So now I'll come back up here and see how we go. Hi, Don, live on YouTube. Thanks. That's good to hear. Sailing Anarchy is also full of rude, nasty people. Yeah, you're right, but you got to. I treat it as a bit of fun because Sailing Anarchy, even the name says it all. It's all about anarchy, which I really like. And yes, that's part of the deal. Instead of saying, instead of being polite and saying, I don't know whether I agree with that. Possibly you could do this. So you just get on and say, that's a load of bullshit. What a load of crap. And that's what people do, and it's kind of fun. So you got to treat it with a bit of pinch of salt. But yes, there are some rude, nasty people there, and they let that go. It's freedom of speech and things. But some of that stuff is just part of what the site is known for. To have a bit of fun. And so I always treat it with a bit of pinch of salt. And I'm quite proud of my name on Sailing Anarchy, Mad Bastard. That's good. Anyway, Mike Gay, g'day, Mike. Ayrton. Jeepers. Ayrton's watching. Isn't that funny? So g'day, Ayrton, if you're still watching. I hope I didn't upset you too much to let you know that Kerry went roaring past you, but you're having good fun. So glad you're there and having fun. Les, I've been using the tracker as a basic tool, but now I know all the tricks. Yep. If you can remember them. Well, we can video replay that one. That's why I did it at the beginning. The video replay of the boats on the tracker is always a lot of fun. You can wind that back and just do your own video replay at whatever speed you want, and you can reverse it as well, and it shows you some interesting stuff. So great job, but plans must be selling like hotcakes. Dream do come true. You're right. I won't say they're selling like hotcakes, but the biggest difference now is that there's no question when someone calls now to buy a set of plans, they are going to build. There's no question. They're not buying it to dream. And I think I've told you the story. In the beginning, I said it will work out. 1/3 will never build, 1/3 will start building, and the other third will build sometime in the future. And that's exactly what's happened over the last 4 years. Okay, but in the last, what I'd say in the last 6 months, people buying plants, they're going to build for sure. So the numbers are doing okay. We're going to be passing 300 soon. So that's cool. And dreams do happen for sure. Galapagos charge $1,500 to visit, and you must have special anti-fouling and clean bottom for no contamination of invasive species. Okay, I knew it was expensive, and I don't know whether Argo will go in there with his charge issues, but the manager will sort that out and let us know what the plan is. He's got a clean bottom, and he's only got back in the water for a couple of weeks, so I think he'd pass all the environmental issues. So that's kind of fine, but let's wait and see. Anyway, Jonathan, any idea which boats can run longer on a charge on their electric outboards? Using house battery may help a bunch in no breeze. Certainly the e-propulsion has got one of the biggest, for a 1,000 watt outboard, the e-propulsion has got the biggest battery. It's 1,278 units. They've got units. The other German one, what's it called? Jeepers, I forgot the orange one. It's only about 60% of that on their battery capacity. And the Remo is pretty cool. It's the one that's like a fin. A few of them have got a very simple, straightforward. That's only about 1,060. So it's about the e-propulsion is 20% more power in the battery. And then, of course, the e-propulsion Evo 1 Plus or whatever it is can actually charge going in the water if you leave it down and you're not running it as the boat's sailing. If it's sailing more than about 4 or 5 knots, the prop is turning and it's acting as a water generator to top up the battery on the unit so you can recharge it. Argo's got the biggest motor. He's got a German outboard, and it's the equivalent of 5 horsepower. So the others are all equivalent of about 3 horsepower. So it's and it makes a big difference. And it's got bigger battery capacity. He's got 2 of them, which we allow. Okay. And Popeye and John, of course, Popeye and 199, they had theirs all set up permanently on their back with hardwired in so that they could actually try and put some power back into their house batteries as well, which technically we don't allow water generators, but because it's an outboard that recharges itself, we allow that. We don't get too specific and say you can't connect it into the system to use as a water generator, but it's only a trickle charge. It's not going to give anyone a really big advantage. And the disadvantage to that was they couldn't get the outboards off the back of the boat easy because it's hardwired in. So they left the outboard and all the bits on for about 4,500 miles, and then wondered why some of the connections are going a bit funny when the outboards have been underwater. So you've got to get your outboard off the back of the boat to look after it, grease up then I just grease up all your fittings before you put it away, and they'll work fine. Excuse me. So the Evo Plus is a self-charging outboard, but it's very slow. It takes a while. So, Don, wondering why Mark Sinclair does not show up as an entrant, but is shown on the tracker. Well, because he's not an entrant. he's just our mate and a good bloke, and he's given a hand. And we know him really well. I'm from Adelaide. He's from Adelaide. Holiday Dan is from Adelaide. So we just put him on the tracker so people could see where he is. And he can, Mark can see that now on board. He's got a mini Starlink. And so he can try and rendezvous with boats, take photos, things like that. So he's not meant to be there because he's not an entrant. He's in his Lalo 34. But it's just fun for people to see where he is, and it's fun for him as well and stuff like that. So, and as I mentioned yesterday, we were going to have some voyages. We may do that for the next edition in 2029. So we may decide to let up to 6 bigger monohulls or whatever follow the fleet and be part of the parties and all that sort of stuff, and put them on the tracker. Just see, because it can be an advantage. We don't want to have an escort boat like the Mini Transat. The Mini Transat in the class 650s, they have to have escort boats as part of their safety management, safety planning. And if someone gets into trouble, then those escort boats can try and rendezvous. But to me, that loses a bit of the spirit of what you're doing. If you can't get out there and be totally independent, then and be prepared for anything, then maybe you shouldn't be there. I don't know. I'm not criticising the 650s. They're great. I love them. We follow them intimately. It's fantastic, and that's the original heritage for the Mini Transat. That's where he started from back in the 70s, started by Bob Salmon. You can read all about it on the Class Globe 580 website, where the history comes from. But that's where it started from, and then the French took over, and it's evolved into the Class 650, which is stunning. The things they do are just crazy. So all good fun. Anyway, oops, daisy. I just lost all the bits there. Warren Galapagos, thanks for that Galapagos information. Mark Sinclair, we've seen that one. Will Dan be penalised for helping Adam? No one's helped Adam. It's the reverse. Adam has helped Dan by giving him his Iridium Go exec, and Dan will be penalised for that because it's outside assistance while you're at sea. And so that's kind of sad, and I don't even know whether Dan would have realised that, but he should have, because we define very clearly what is outside assistance. I'm certain Dan will understand that when you get the boat and you're pulling it off rocks in a dangerous situation and you ask an entrant to come back, I won't say it's a mayday. It's probably a pan. But irrespective of that, it's outside assistance, and that says a failure of navigation. his equipment broke down, and so what? That's what happens. I complimented them. They did a great job, and they did all the right things, but we're still in a race. So Dan will face a heavy penalty for that, because the outcome of that would have potentially been Dan out of the race. So he can't be left in a position where he has a if he's competitive and he comes up and wins the race and takes the trophy, and yet technically he could have been out just after leaving Panama. You can see where that goes. So we haven't yet decided what that will be, but I don't even want to speculate, but it'll be substantial, that one, because the only other option was out of the event. So he wouldn't be going anywhere then. But he's still in the race, which is great. And he'll still be able to follow the dream and all those sorts of things. So, and Adam, by handing it over, he's just applying assistance. Dan would have asked for that, and Adam's made a decision to assist, which has put him in a little bit of a disadvantage, not for racing or anything, but just a safety factor. But that's fine. So I'm not criticising the action, but Dan has received outside assistance again, and we'll have to pay a price for that. We don't know what that is yet. We have to wait until the end of the leg when they give us the report on what happened, how long things took, all that sort of stuff. So that's cool. Rachel, are the sailors who are to the north of the route likely to head north of the Galapagos Island? I doubt it. The objective is to get south to get to the trades, and the trades are holding on average at about 5 degrees south. So they have to get over the equator, and they're all heading that way. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Renaud is doing anything wrong. He's forced into that position because he's watching the weather and he's got to get to some breeze. So anyway, Rachel, can they use their outboards when travelling through the Doldrum? Yeah, they can use their outboards whenever they want. It's one of the tactics they can use, especially if they can recharge the battery somehow. And they calculate what's going to give them the best range. It might be travelling at 1.5 knots, which is little trickle charge, is better than travelling at 2.5 knots. They can get more distance. So it's part of the game, which is good for the outboard development and so on. Warren, Lucette was Robertson's boat. Okay. The last voyage of Lucette was written by Douglas's son. Great read, paper only. Okay. That was in relation to yesterday in the whales that sunk the boat. Do you know how many of the entrants are planning to doing a stopover in the Galapagos Islands? And if so, which islands are they hoping to? No, there'll be none. None. The only one that might do that would be Argo, because he's got to get some charts maybe. So, but I haven't heard anyone that's planning to go there. We thought about it as a stop a long time ago, but it's very complicated. It's a beautiful place. Never been there, know all about it. I was invited to go there once, never did. Blah, blah, blah. All right, I think we're done. So we're nearly inside the hour. Sheepers. All kind of fun. So I hope you're having a good Sunday, and we are not sure about tomorrow. I've got a few things happening tomorrow. I think we'll probably will be able to get a tracker up. Might be late. But there's a couple of things on the go, so we will see. Okay, have a good weekend. Thanks for that, and thanks for following. Remember to like and all that sort of stuff. Like and subscribe, and keep it all happening, and tell your friends. We'll see how we go. If I press that, we might be able to finish off this. See you later.
Witness history in the making. The McIntyre Mini Globe Race 2025. Small boat, huge adventure.